Welcome to episode 116 of the Actual Astronomy Podcast. I'm Chris, and joining me is Shane. We are amateur astronomers who love looking up at the night sky, and this podcast is for anyone else who likes going out under the stars. How was your week, Shane?
It was amazing, Chris. It was absolutely amazing. You know what? I've got a game changer. I've been saving this little secret. And
oh, really? I'm excited. I'm excited. Yep. Yeah, go for it.
I am upping our culinary game to new levels when we go camping. I have a portable smoker now, and we're just going to smoke meat nonstop during the day and then just gorge on brisket and ribs and whatever else as we observe all night. So I'm excited.
So people should know that Mike and Shane and I, we do a lot of camping and observing together, a lot. And I'm not much of a camp cook. And one of the first times we were doing this together, I was pouring hot water into a bag to rehydrate some food that I brought prepackaged. And I looked over to Shane and I could see he had his Coleman grill going and it has one of those windbreaks on the front. And I could see he's got some utensils going. And I'm like, waiting for my bag of chili to rehydrate. And I say, "What are you cooking, Shane?" And turns it around and he's poaching a salmon. That's not a lie. That was actually, people think maybe I'm making a joke. This is true. We're out in the middle of nowhere and Shane's out there poaching a salmon.
I like to eat well, and
it's good. No, I mean, I think that's good.
With all of the camping discomforts, it's nice to have a good meal, So I'm excited for the smoker. We'll see. I've smoked a couple times in the backyard now, and I'll see if I can perfect the trade. And the other side though of this is it requires electricity, so I'll need an electrified campsite, which sometimes we don't have those. So I guess it's dependent on that.
Generator. No, don't
no generator.
I'm sure
too
Mike
noisy.
Mike is power to spare. I'm sure if you're smoking meat, you guys are going to be battling for a spot on the rack.
Yep, more than likely.
What was it he cooked down there once? I went in and he was making like this pasta dish, and it was just like, Mike, and I mean, you're an amateur cook, you can cook. But Mike actually he worked as a cook.
Yeah, and he was a professional.
Yeah, he worked. I think was it on Gabriel Island or Salt Spring Island or one of these islands anyway, over on the West Coast. And anyway, but I mean, he can really cook. Like, he would give me some recipes from time to time, and I would, whip something up for Rebecca, and it was always like, like amazing food, just like even simple things like how to cook a steak properly. You think you know how to cook a steak? I never knew how to cook a steak. Mike kind of demoed that for me and kind of learned that from him. So, but yeah, all while camping. How to make it? You think you had a good cup of coffee? Like things that are simple. Like people think making a good cup of coffee, making a good steak, just like a little bit of time and attention. We won't get into cooking here now, but maybe we'll do best food for observing on.
I would totally be down for that. I do like to eat, and it can be a little challenging when we go camping, but like you say, maybe for another episode. So
yeah.
How was your week, sir?
It was good. Yeah, it was good. Taking on some more volunteer duties, as I was telling you, can't quite announce it yet, but taking on a large and interesting project. I get some vacation time with my current job. Sort of when I had gone to that role, I had thought, I'd actually get some vacation that I would actually use instead of saving up until the never time. But anyway, so I've taken on another project and working on my own observing and that sort of thing. Did you actually get out observing this week?
Well, I did a lot of daytime observing. I tell you, this working from home during the pandemic, I am taking full advantage of the solar observing, while it's warm out. I didn't do it much over the winter, but just about every day that there's not cloud in the sky, just before I head down to work, so I work in the basement, I put out the solar scope, and the dog goes outside to use the bathroom. I'll take a quick look at the sun, and then put the caps on the telescope and the eyepiece, go work until 10:30, come up, make a tea, have another quick look, and then another quick look at lunch, another quick look in the afternoon, and then after work. So I got about 3 days in of that, and then even
Oh,
this
wow.
morning I had two quick looks at the sun. The solar scope is still outside on the patio, so I'll be observing it all day. There's been a lot of activity on the sun. There's a real nice sunspot right now on the kind of close to the western limb. Fairly sizable, like anybody with a white light filter will be able to see it. And then the prominence activity, I'm trying to think here. I think Friday was a little low, but every other day there's been just prominences all over, quite sizable, different shapes, sizes, all of that. So that's been a lot of fun. And then I did do one night, like work has just been really, really busy, and it's going to be quite busy here for the next week or two. So it leaves me a little exhausted in the evenings, and I haven't done too much nighttime stuff. However, I did take out, which telescope did I take? I think I took out the little Borg, the Mini 50.
Okay.
Anyway, it doesn't really matter. And I had I don't know, maybe a 10 or 15 minute session just looking at Malot 111 up in Coma Berenices. And it was awesome. Those Malot objects are really, really good. I think I need to put more focus on them.
They're a lot of fun.
They are. They're great for a small telescope.
Yeah.
And, a small telescope with a wide field, some of them anyway. And, Coma Berenices is, kind of an interesting part of the sky, I think, that often I overlook, and I think others do sometimes too. So anyway, it was just fun to go out, not like overextend myself, but, take in a quick view and then go to bed and
nice
to fight another day. How was your week? I think you were on vacation. Were you able to get out at all and do some observing?
Yeah. So I end up like having, and I think I explained this to you before. I used to be an alpine ski racer, and I've broken a lot of fingers, and I for some reason I seem to have refractured one, and so I spent most of the week icing my finger, which may sound kind of ridiculous, but when you can't use your right hand, so I was off, which was good because I probably would end up not being able to work because I couldn't really type much, and so it's better now as of today, ready to go back to work tomorrow. but I end up having this stupid finger problem. But 5 days of ice, and it sort of turned it around, and but so I was feeling better, and I went to back my car. So actually hadn't taken my car out since last November or something like that, because pandemic, just been home and just sort of left it parked and nowhere to go. And our numbers have been really high, and then recently started coming down. And so I thought, I'm going to go out. I'm kind of looking for just a slightly different spot than I have been using, just because like somebody built a house there, and not that they've said anything, but you're like kind of observing like within a couple hundred meters. And every time I go out there, like the person's lights come on and that, and I'm like, man, I don't want to be, bugging this person or whatever. So anyway, just looking for a slightly different spot out there, like sort of another 5 minutes down the road kind of thing. But just like before I went to back my car out, my wife said, you better check like your insurance and stuff. And sure enough, I needed to do a renewal. I kind of thought I did anyway, but it was good reminder. Like I said, I hadn't moved the car, so it wasn't really a big deal. And then it was one of those, and I'm not going to get into all the intricacies of insurance and renewing it here, but I actually had to go over to like the insurance place. And so, I thought I could do it on the phone, and I called them like, no, you have to go in, but you can't go to our place because our system's down today. You have to find another one. And so I spent the better part of a day doing that. So the one good night I probably could have gone out. I didn't get out because of insurance and all that kind of business that I was roped into having to do over the next day. So anyway, sort of a funny thing, with the pandemic, it's like one of those things kind of like, skip my mind, not driving my car. And, there we go. A few months go by and something you don't think of.
Well, now you're ready, I guess.
Yeah. Ready now. I got to get it in for some service and that sort of thing. Just, I think it had a recall on it for something or other. I don't think it's a major thing. So I think it's like the dashboard lights or something like that. So have to take it over and get it taken care of. Hey, how did your presentation go on small telescopes on Friday?
It was fun. Yeah, it was really fun. So yeah, I presented to the local Regina Astronomy Club. There was about 20 people on the Zoom meeting, I think, somewhere around there. So I was hoping for a few more, but it was still a fun evening. I think I talked for about 70 minutes or so. And I went through sort of my history of telescope usage, starting with some bigger aperture, the 8-inch and then the 12-inch Dobsonian, and then how I slowly transitioned away from those to refractors. Started with 120 millimeter refractor, but I just seemed to be going smaller and smaller and smaller. So I talked about some of the reasons why I've done that. And then I talked about probably my most fatal mistake that I made with refractors early on, because when I owned the 8-inch Dobsonian, the Skywatcher, I also had an 80 millimeter William Optics Apple refractor. It was a really nice refractor. Yeah. But I hated it. And so the biggest mistake that I made back then was that I tried to use it in the same way I used my 8-inch Dobsonian, looking at galaxies and globular clusters and not loving the views. And, one of the takeaways I tried to leave with everybody for small telescope observing is it's not, and this is actually almost a verbatim from the last slide, is that a small telescope is not better or worse than a large telescope. It's just a different tool for the job. And you need to cater your observing for a small telescope. So, if you're using it, don't try to look at galaxies, because you're probably going to be unhappy. It's not going to show them very well. And same with globulars. You need aperture to really resolve the details of those things. But, if you're looking at, say, double stars, you can cater a huge list of double stars for any aperture. You can also look at, in my opinion, one of the best uses for small telescopes is big open clusters. There's a lot of those that you can look at. There's the stellar associations. There's dark nebula, that can be quite large too, that small telescopes can excel at. So, that was my main kind of takeaway, that I tried to leave with everybody. Then we had some interesting discussion at the end of it, because I shared, what is that guy's name? The guy that did the Herschel 400 with a 55 millimeter telescope from a light polluted sky.
Was that Jay Reynolds Freeman?
Yeah, that's it. And so anyway, I mentioned that not as like here's something you should do. It's just, it shows the capabilities of a small telescope if you're persistent and you're, using some interesting observing techniques. One of his observing techniques was cupping his observing eye to protect the dark adaptation. And then after my presentation, we had questions and a short discussion, and a couple of the participants mentioned using a patch on your non-observing eye, because, and this I've experienced, we've all experienced this many times. When you're squinting or, closing your non-observing eye, and you're doing this for a long period of time or over the course of the entire night, it starts to cause fatigue on your observing eye. It's not comfortable. So putting the patch on your non-observing eye allows you to keep that eye open, but it's not distracted, by seeing things, right? Like, it obviously can't see anything with the patch on. And that really makes for a far more comfortable session. But I've, one of the participants said, like, when he's comet hunting, he often uses that technique because it helps him see better or see more with his observing eye because of the comfort level. So I thought that was real interesting. I've heard about the patch on the observing eye many times, but I might try the patch on the non-observing eye just to see, how the comfort level changes.
So here's my take on that. We should be doing this on Talk Like a Pirate Day. or when we talk about Stephen James Amira's Hidden Treasures, because he kind of has that theme going. But honestly, I just pretty much leave my other eye open and just seem to be able to sort through and not take in that view. And I think you can kind of train yourself to do that.
I think you can, for sure. I've done that, and then I just give up pretty quickly because I get distracted with my eye not looking through the telescope. So, but you're right. I'm sure you can kind of work your way up, or train your brain to only really focus on the one eye.
Yeah. It's pretty amazing. What the mind and the brain can do. Sometimes the one thing that you'll hear is that people will use a patch or different things to try to get like that one eye more dark adapted, or to keep it dark adapted or something like that. But it's not actually how the visual system in the brain works. And so there are some misconceptions in the astronomical community, it seems, about how the eye and the brain works. Because some people will say, well, you can even cover over one eye and then it will help preserve dark adaptation and stuff like that. But that's not how our sensory organs actually operate. So I'm not going to get into all that, but yeah, you can. I think the best thing to do is just to relax. First of all, I don't know why people get so tense when they observe, but just to relax, and then kind of focus your attention through that one eye. So, are you using a patch now? Are you convinced? Are you gonna get like a pirate hat and
maybe a sword as well? I'm not, got to complete the whole look, but I don't have a patch, but I think I'll buy one. They're cheap, right? You can buy one for probably $5, and give it a try. I'm always interested in different observing techniques. Last year I talked about how my one observing friend or acquaintance mentioned, like, the way to tease out the most detail on Mars is to start early in the night using a ridiculous amount of magnification, and you do that for an hour or two. Yeah. And you may not see a lot of detail, and it may be frustrating, but he said when you back off that magnification, then after a couple of hours, you'd be surprised at how much more detail you can see because your eye has been working and it's active. And he said, try it, and even just look at the full moon, or at the moon naked eye. And he said, you'll see more detail. Mm-hmm. And he was right. I didn't go for the full 2 hours of extreme magnification, but I did do about 20 minutes to 30 minutes. And then when I looked at the moon this one night, I was pretty surprised at like the contrast between the dark and the lighter zones on the moon was just boom. Like, it was there. I didn't really have to let my eyes adjust or try to see it. Yeah. So anyway, I'm always curious to try different ways to observe that allow me to see more detail. And if a patch will do that, why not? I'll give it a try.
Yeah. No, I think there is something to just playing around with it, just paying attention to it. I think even will just generate that. I don't want to say it, but sometimes one of the things we deal with, in our study, is observer bias. But this is truly observer bias.
Yeah. Well, sometimes you just need to convince yourself that something is, giving you an advantage, and the brain will believe it. So.
Yeah. Well, no, but I think as well, just the messing around with this kind of stuff in the field, and kind of being focused on how you're seeing things and what you're seeing. In different ways, I think that definitely will improve any observer's visual acuity under the night sky. Yeah, for sure. So I think that's good advice. Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, I'm glad your class went good. Yeah, or your
it was fun.
Yeah. I started teaching my spring and summer astronomy class, the course, 4 weeks. So that's now underway. I had good comment. I had the same comment in a few different ways from at least a few different attendees to the class, and one was, and I'm sure you've found this challenge as well, but I guess basically what they were saying is that it can be challenging to learn the constellations because they move from night to night and from season to season. There was there was one person, and they I think they had attended the class like last summer when I taught it over the summer or at another point in time. And then they were like, great, you know, I got this all sorted out, and, you know, that's great. Some people do. And they had sort of bought some of the books I recommended. And then when they went out in the winter, they were okay. And then by spring now, everything had rotated around so much, it was kind of confusing. So one of the things they want me to focus on is that sort of seasonal rotation of the constellations, and just how challenging it can be to go out after a few months and kind of reorient yourself. But have you found that as well?
Yeah, definitely. But I kind of view it as like an interesting evolution of the sky, you know, to watch over a period of months. And best example right now is Boots. You know, it just maybe 3 to 4 weeks ago, Boots was like in the eastern sky, and it was kind of on its side.
Yeah.
And, you know, by summertime, this will become a real prominent thing in the West as the sun is setting and we're transitioning to darkness. So, you know, from 4 weeks ago till the middle of summer, you can kind of watch Boots transition across the whole sky.
Yeah.
And that's cool, but it can also be kind of disorienting, you know, especially if you get to know Boots, let's just say, as, you know, it looks in the Western sky during summertime. It's kind of confusing to see where it is right now. But I think one of the best ways to help overcome that, in my opinion, is just to use a planisphere. You know, you can dial in the planisphere for the time and date that you're observing, and then quickly show it up or put it up to the sky and get an orientation of where everything is.
Yeah.
And then you're good to go. And probably the other thing too is just, you know, try to go out once or twice a week, even if it's just to look at constellations in the sky. You know, and it helps you. You know, if you go out the first time and you're kind of confused, and let's say you use the planisphere and you go, okay, there's Boots and there's Virgo and blah 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 blah. The next time you go out, say the following week, you're going to know exactly where everything is, but they'll just have shifted a bit, and then you can, you know, kind of watch it as it moves.
Yeah, that's a really good recommendation. Maybe I should just say, like, for those listening, if people don't know what a planisphere is, it kind of is like two circles of paper. One on top of the other, and then typically one of the circles has a cutout that reveals the portion of the sky below it that is the sky according to the hours in which you set it. So on the outside, there's days and hours, and so there's a day and an hour, pretty much for any nighttime setting of the year, from typically like 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. or something like that. And so you can dial it in for like January 1st at 6 p.m. or February 8th at at 2 a.m. and so on and so forth. So you can actually dial it, like it sort of moves one layer on top of the other, and then there's like a window that will reveal the sky. And just through the magic of the way it reveals the sky, kind of helps reveal that orientation of the stars and constellations. Like Shane was saying, you know, a few weeks ago, Boots was in the east and sort of on its side. Now it's up overhead, and then in a few more weeks, it'll be down towards the west on its other side. And by using a planisphere, it will kind of sort of magically and in sort of an analog sense reveal the constellations more or less as they appear in the night sky. So yeah, that's a great idea. Yeah, I'm gonna definitely take that back to them.
Yeah, it's a handy resource, and the nice thing about the planisphere, like you and I have said many times, is it's not a screen. And I know there's all sorts of things you can do to your phone or whatever you're using to dim it down, but I still just prefer using, you know, paper or non-illuminated things whenever I can. And I feel like I can control the brightness a little bit better that way in terms of my red flashlight, and they work well, the planispheres.
Yeah, and I mean, sort of in full disclosure, you and I both work in technology, so we're people that are rather familiar with the intricacies of using different softwares and hardwares and this sort of thing, and have different experiences there. But our experiences with using devices and screens under the night sky has universally been one that we try to steer people away from.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah. And you know, part of it too really is that in a cold climate, it's a pain to sometimes use digital devices. You know, either you have gloves on, or like you know, my iPhone will freeze, you know, in minus 20-degree temperatures and shut down. Like it just
Yeah.
stops working. And you know, when you rely on that stuff as your only source, it can limit you sometimes. Whereas, you know, the good old-fashioned paper just keeps on ticking.
Yeah, and I'll say, like, I remember, you know, and I do like using astronomy software quite a bit, and I'll make my own charts and everything, and like to make observing lists and blah blah blah, all this stuff. Anyway, and when I first got one of the newer computers, about, like I said, about 10 years ago, I'm looking at it. It's in my corner, doesn't work anymore. Maybe because I did this to it. But when I first got one of the newer computers that had like properly dimmable LCD screen, like really high res, paid a little bit extra for it, and you know, I was like, man, this is going to be a great computer to try in the field. It was small and lightweight, and had, you know, the ability to create like a full dimmed down red screen. I tried it inside. It seemed like, ooh, that is really faint. And I thought, this is going to be great. So I get out in the field with it, and I had Sky Tools loaded on it, which is a great, really advanced planetarium software. You're looking for something simple, go with Sky Safari, in my opinion. But anyway, I get out there and I got my Sky Tools running on it, and it has really great dimming features for red. And I'm dimming it down, and then I'm dimming down the screen brightness, and I get it just about to the point where I'm like, all right, this is almost dim enough, and I hit it one more, and the screen just blacks out, right? And I'm like, oh. So then I take it up that next. I'm like, okay, well, it's a little bright, and I actually did this purposely on a night when nobody else was observing with me, and I went somewhere where nobody else is going to be around, so that I'm not annoying like you and Mike with this screen that I'm messing around with. And so I thought, okay, well, I'll try it here, and then maybe I can put like a piece of cellophane over it the next time. So I start trying to use it, and I quickly realized that, you know, and I kind of alluded to this already, the eye just does not work the same at night as it does in the daytime. It doesn't work the same at all. And so the screen is still, like I said, it's still at least one level too bright, at least a level too bright. And so it's too bright, so it's impacting my night vision. Yet at the same time, enough of my daytime vision is gone that I can't see it at a reasonable distance. So I've got like my eye like pressed up against the screen trying to see whatever it is I was trying to look at. That, and I was trying to look at some planetary nebulas up in or maybe an open cluster up in Lyra. And I was like, this is really annoying. like it's still too bright, but I can't even use it the way I had envisioned, right? Like I'm sitting here at my computer here now chatting with you, and I was thinking it would be a similar experience to that, but it's not. I can't even see it from, you know, 2 or 3 feet away. I got to put my eye right up against it. It's too bright from 2 or 3 feet away. It's definitely too bright from 2 or 3 inches away. And then, like, how inconvenient is this, right? This is not a good experience. So that's what happens. And then when people take out like a cell phone or something else, it's the same thing. So you have to turn the screen brightness up so much that your daytime vision is firing enough so that you can actually use the device. And so that's going to impact how you see the stars. And that's another thing that people will struggle with when they go out, because they have that bright screen, and then they're looking away from it, and then they're trying to see the stars. Well, they've just introduced a whole different level of complexity, A. And B, the one thing I notice still is that, and I'm sure this will get better, but it's not going to solve all the problems, is that the devices need to be well calibrated and set up to actually be showing you the correct orientation and the correct sky as it appears at the present time. And often these end up getting off for hours for whatever reason. I don't know, but I can't tell you the number of times I've been doing public observing, and someone says, oh, I got an app on my phone that will tell me what that star is. And then you look and they've got it set to the southern hemisphere, like something really like way off, right?
Yeah. There's all sorts of nuances there that you have to consider, I suppose.
So I sent you an article. Did you read the article I sent you, or did you just skim it?
Did you send me this? Oh, yeah, no, I read it. I read that. This is is it the journal article?
Yeah. How to plan your own observing program.
Yeah, no, I liked it.
Oh, good.
Some of it is what we've talked about in the podcast,
Yeah.
and I think it's how I've actually adapted kind of my observing, particularly with marking up the atlas. I've said it a few times now, and I think that's a game changer too in terms of how I observe. I didn't realize, how frustrating it was in the field sometimes to find, like, it's enough to try to find the object in the sky with your telescope, but I was spending as much time trying to find the object sometimes in the atlas, so I even knew where to look in the sky, and this method is just so much better.
Yeah. So one thing we were chatting about this before we started podcasting today is that sometimes we're doing, whether it's your presentation on Friday night or me writing an article or something, but sometimes when we're doing these other activities, we're just putting it out to like a limited audience, or it's like a one-time thing, like your presentation on Friday night. But you'll be able to take that hopefully and kind of, maybe we can rework that, or you can rework it into something we can do a podcast on. And then, we can reach a wider listenership or wider audience. And then the same thing, we talked about some of those things. These were just kind of notes from just one of these. We call this episode 1 kind of for the week, where we just have a conversation. And I remember that week I was like, man, I don't know what I'm going to talk about. This is what I was doing, I guess, kind of throw in a few screenshots and, or write a few lines about it and chat with Shane about it for 5 minutes. And then that will kind of maybe fill a bit of my time. But then kind of as you and I chatted about it that day, and then I think later on in the week, you kind of started experimenting on your own with it and sent me some of your screenshots and some of your feedback and kind of how you were doing. I was like, well, this makes a decent thing to actually put together for a journal article for our RASC readers. And the journal is free to anybody if you go to rasc.ca publications. If it's working, if the website's working right now, we've had some technical trouble over there, but the most recent journal will have that in there. Yeah, I should say we'll have it in there because I think it comes out in 2 or 3 weeks or something like that. So anyway, that's where I'm at with that.
Yeah, that's a good read for everybody, I think. It's a good article. It's very applicable.
Yeah, it was fun, and it's easier. Sometimes it's easier to write those things now that we're doing the podcast, just because it kind of gives me the idea, and then kind of have some time to kind of flesh it out a bit. I also began working on my feature constellation for the 2022 RASC Observer's Handbook. So that's exciting. So Randall Rosenfeld is a longtime suffering friend of mine. Randall is so he is. Here I am. I actually hit my microphone as I was trying to say the word precision. Here he is. Randall is just quintessentially precise. So I'm trying to convince him to come on the podcast. I think maybe he's going to come on. We're just working some of the details out now, but he's somebody that really wants to stick to a script. And so doing a podcast is not something that is his cup of tea as much to talk informally about. And because he is a very meticulous historical analyzer of astronomy and the history of astronomy, just on this ridiculous level. Like it's amazing. It really is. He's an amazing person. And he writes these great articles for the journal. And I've become friends with him over the years. Very, very fortunate. He's come and stayed at my home, and we've worked on tons of projects together. I don't have that same level of precision. I'm an analytical person, but not on the same level as Randall. But what people don't realize is he's also a really good amateur astronomer, like really solid visual observer. And he gets into these really interesting personal projects, which never really see the light of day. Because they're not like that level of precision. It's like a personal interest. And I kind of want him to come on, and same with Clark, who's our history chair. And I've observed with Clark a lot over the years, because he and I lived in the same place for a long time, and I really want them to come on and talk about some of these projects, because they scarcely do. If they're talking about them, they only just refer to them as an aside, as part of maybe like a bit of a fact checking thing. But in reality, like Clark built some Galileo telescopes, and what he was trying to do is actually 100% replicate the type of view that Galileo would have had through his instruments. And I feel like he did accomplish this. I was fortunate to borrow it for an extended period of time, and it was just an amazing thing to view through, and just incredible. But he spent so many nights in that doing this. But then, his published articles were simply just sort of referring to the equipment a little bit and the observations that he made with an analysis of the Galileo observations that he was replicating. But at the same time, just the sheer effort that went in, and the actual observing under the stars that went in to do this was really the bulk of the work. Anyway, so I think they're going to come on sometime in the next month. If we're just going to maybe work out a date, Shane, that sounds good with you.
Absolutely. Yeah, that would be awesome. I think that would be a fun talk.
Yeah. And then, and I haven't reached out to her yet, but Bill Weir tapped one of our longtime, we're on a listserv together, very small listserv for a committee on observing in Canada. And he tapped a person from my neck of the woods originally back in Nova Scotia. And anyway, I have to reach out to her because she started observing when I was the observing chair here in Canada. And anyway, she did a lot of observing. She's observed, I think, all of the RASC certificate objects, except for maybe like 3 or 4 or something like that.
Oh, wow.
And she's just done some, and I do have to reach out to her and set this up right. I'm almost hoping she can knock off the last remaining objects, and then maybe we'll have her on when she finishes, because I think Bill said she's down to the last 3 or 4. But I mean, she's an amazing observer. Anyway, not gonna give it away. Got to reach out to her, but she's right up there with Bill Weir in observing. So I think she'll be interesting. She doesn't have as big equipment, but she's like made arrangements and gone and observed at people's large telescope observatories to knock off some of the big things, and just like the experiences of doing that. And like, I remember I was chatting to her about one of those, and she like got to the person's house, and the observatory, I think, is on top of their house, and she went to go to make the observations, and I think like her chart was wrong or something like that.
Oh no.
Like big struggles like that, because you go and you travel and you go to somebody's place, and then you mess something up. And anyway, I'm kind of hoping that we can get her on and talk about those experiences. Should be good. So what else? I got a lot going on.
yeah, I see this big list here.
Goes on and on and on. I'm getting my Burlaback tripod refined. Bought some more blue. Have you bought any of the more blue stuff yet? I'm curious to see what this stuff's like.
Well, I'm just looking at it now. Like, I remember, like, you sent me a text asking if I wanted more blue. Oh, this is the lightweight dovetail bars that are, they kind of grind out, or not as much metal involved to try to reduce the weight. I've never tried one. Yeah, they look interesting. Yeah,
so I wanted to get a couple more dovetails anyway. I have a 7-inch. I think it's a 7-inch. It's confusing as heck, because there's Losmandy style formatted plates. Losmandy also makes Vixen plates, which Vixen mounts. So sometimes I say, I have a Losmandy Vixen plate, and people are like, what are you talking about? How can it be a Losmandy plate that's a Vixen plate? You mean it's like a dual plate? I'm like, no, it's a Vixen plate that's made by Losmandy. They're like, Losmandy makes plates? Like, because another company might make a Losmandy plate. It's just like another company might make a Vixen plate. So anyway, it's confusing.
It's terrible naming. Yeah, both names are confusing because they're both named after a company. The Vixen style dovetail and the Losmandy style are not, like, they should be called something else entirely different. Yeah. But anyway, I digress.
It is. And then there's Arca Swiss.
Yep.
And I didn't know, but the Arca Swiss is a little bit different. I actually have a plate that's Arca Swiss that came with one of my Universal Astronomics mounts. And I thought it was a Vixen plate. And then I went to use it when I got a Vixen mount. It didn't fit. And I was like, oh, crap. Look at all these different types of plates. Anyway, so I needed Vixen plates. I have these Losmedy ones, but they're like solid. I think it's steel or something. I don't know. It's heavy, weighs like, it's a 7-inch plate. It weighs like, I don't know, 18 ounces or something like that. It's heavy as heck. And I'm trying to get my 100 millimeter as light as possible. So by going to one of these More Blue, this is the brand name, comes out of, I think, Japan or somewhere, end up shaving about 7 or 8 ounces off minimum.
It's quite a bit.
Kind of, because that's like a can of pop, right? So I'm kind of excited about that because I feel like I'll notice that when I heft the bag. And so why am I doing that? Why would that matter? So when I got the 100 millimeter, the Takahashi 100 DC, so it's a 100 millimeter f7.4 telescope, and it's one of not only I think anyway, one of the best quality 100 millimeters you can get. It's also among the lightest, if not, I think it's about the lightest 100 millimeter telescope of the refractor type that you can buy. And then the focuser is a little heavy, so I pulled the focuser off and I put a Feather Touch lightweight focuser on, further reduced the weight. So I think it got down to around, I don't know, it's like 5.6 pounds or maybe 6.5 pounds or something like that. And then I bought some lightweight rings from, what's the name of the company? Those red ones that you love.
Prima Lucha or something like that?
Prima Luca Labs.
That's it.
Prima Luca Labs. And
there you go.
And so when I put them on, I'm like, great, this is going to be good. But the way that I had always observed with refractors before is I kept my rings and dovetail separate for whatever reason. And then I had intended to do that with this, but for reasons I can't quite describe, it doesn't seem to work as well for this setup. It's the only really downside to this setup. So that extra 8 or 9 ounces in that dovetail plate, I feel that when it's attached to the scope here, I went and got this lightweight scope, and now I've added this extra weight onto it. So I'm hoping to kind of just shave that off just a little bit. So looking forward to that. And then I needed another extension pier for my AZGTI mount. So it comes with one, and it's good. And it's I think it's fine, but it's got these little thumb screws. So the extension that comes with the AZGTI when you buy it, it has like a base plate that you screw onto your tripod, and it's regular tripod, whatever, 316 threaded. I don't know any of that stuff, but it's just a regular tripod. Screw hole that's in the bottom of the extension. And what this does is it raises the mount off of your tripod so that when you're using longer refractors, you're not constantly running into your tripod legs. And it works well. But it's got these little threaded screws at the top, and it has like this detachable plate. You attach the plate to your mount or whatever else. You can put any kind of mount on this. And then you have to like drop that in and then kind of screw these thumb screws in just with your fingers. And I'm thinking, man, we get down to grasslands, I'm losing those thumb screws. Like,
yeah,
for sure.
And then you're not observing if that's your only mount.
Yeah, or duct taping it together. Anyway, that's not going to work. That's, I started looking at it last fall and like thinking about it. So I thought what I would do, my original plan was just to buy another one, and then I'd have 2 sets of thumb screws and just keep them handy. And so I was rolling. I thought, okay, I'll order one. And then I found out that the back order, it would land here maybe by fall. It's so far back ordered. So I ordered a carbon fiber one from More Blue. And these are not expensive parts, $79. So, it was a difference between $30 and $80, I think, Canadian or something like that. So it wasn't like a bank bust or anything like that. So and the More Blue one, you just screw it on to the top of the plate like you would with the like you would just with a regular tripod. So I think that's going to work out a little bit better. And it's about a centimeter taller, so it gives me just a little bit more swing through. So getting pretty close to having that ultimate portable 4-inch setup.
Very cool. Looking forward to hear the review of those dovetails.
They're back ordered. They're saying 2 weeks.
Okay.
But I think they're coming in because they did charge me already. But it was only, I think, for everything and shipping, it I think came to like a couple $100 or something like that. So it's not like a big expense. So anyway, yeah, we'll see how that goes. So I was reading some of Stephen O'Meara's books, just trying to figure out like what powers I need to haul with me, because I pretty much have most powers taken care of with all my different eyepieces. But I was looking at some of his books, and so Stephen James O'Meara, he wrote this. What was the series called? Deep Sky Companions? Is that what it was called? Anyway.
Yeah, I don't remember what the series was called, but there's 4 of them, Hidden Treasures, and I can't even think of them all right now.
There's the Messier, the Caldwell objects, which I think I gave away, so I might rebuy it. I'm not a big fan of the Caldwell objects anyway, but that's another story for another day. There's Hidden Treasures. There's the Secret Deep, and then the Southern. I think he did one on the Southern Sky.
Yeah, Southern Gems or something like that.
Southern Gems. Yeah. So he's got 5. So I've got 2 or 3 of them here. I've got 3. I have the Secret Deep, but I don't know where that one is. So I was looking at like what powers he was using for at least the Messier and the Deep Sky Gems, and really seems to focus on having about like 23 power in his 4-inch, and 70 odd power, and then like 100 power. Those are his most used ones. So anyway, I was just kind of looking at those, and just wonder like what are your thoughts on a power spread? So you have a 4-inch Genesis, don't you? That was the telescope he was using.
Yeah. I have the Teleview Genesis SDF. It weighs at least twice as much as yours. It's it's a fairly heavy 4-inch, but it's a great telescope. I was actually, this question came up on Friday night when I was presenting about, it was phrased about target magnification. And, my approach really is to have just a wider range of options in front of me. So you can match, the focal length of your eyepiece to whatever, like, because there's so many variables here, right? There's the atmosphere is your biggest limiting factor, but then it depends what you're looking at too, as to how much magnification you want, and then how much wide field do you want. But typically what I'll do when we go dark sky observing is I leave the 31 millimeter Nagler in the diagonal for most of the night. And I'm just going to calculate that real quick. 540 divided by 31. So that gives me 17 times magnification. Yeah. And I like that quite a bit. And then if there's something that I think could use more magnification, then I usually put my Leica zoom in there, which has the focal ratio or the focal zoom length of like 9 millimeters up to, 17 or 18. And then that kind of covers off the majority of the magnifications I would want to use in any given night. If I want more power, either throw a Barlow in, or, like the set of eyepieces that I take when we go deep sky observing is typically the 31 millimeter Nagler, the Leica zoom, and the 5 millimeter Nikon. And then that kind of covers me off. And I can hit a lot of different magnifications. The 5 millimeter just gives me slightly over 100 times. The Leica, an awful lot of variance in between, and then, like I say, the low power Nagler.
Sounds good.
Yeah,
cool. Yeah, well, that's I think that's a nice spread to have. Do you ever try out that Spears Weller 5 to 8 zoom that I lent you, and I think you fixed up for me?
I haven't used it yet. I really haven't been doing much I haven't really needed high magnification in the backyard. I've just been looking at some pretty easy doubles lately. Yeah. But yeah, I'll definitely give it a try here. Maybe on Venus, or maybe just some, more challenging double star splits. Yeah. No, just be curious what you think of it. I think Venus, it does have some secondary color in that eyepiece. So just be aware of that. Yeah. Fair enough. Cool.
All right. Anything else to add for this episode, Shane?
No, other than I'll just mention real quick, our last 2 episodes, my audio quality diminished, and towards the end, I was a little crackly. We are aware of it. I think it was the app that I used. I was using the Zoom app. It needed an update. I think things are a lot better this week, and I just wanted to, I guess just apologize. Chris and I talked about it, and we decided that it's better to put it out there with kind of poor quality than nothing at all. So,
Yeah.
Hopefully the audio quality is better going forward.
Yeah, we're amateur podcasters too. We just do this for fun, so we're not that concerned about it. But we do try to strive to make things better. It was frustrating though because we had some sound challenges, especially with my sound, and you'd been able to kind of harmonize that out. We put out 1 or 2 episodes, and then we had another sound challenge that was completely different.
Yeah. Oh, well.
Thank you, Shane, for persevering and working through all of our sound issues on all sides.
Yeah, right on.
Good stuff. Well, thanks so much.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for listening, and we hope you enjoyed the show. If you are interested in more information, would like to contact us, or if you would like to support the podcast, check out our website, actualastronomy.com.